Hey gang, JC here, and this is the Daily Dose for Wednesday, July 13th, 2011, a combined venture with Mind Active in beautiful downtown Brentwood. Terrific archives from the old TV days back in the 80s, 90s, and beyond, right up there at the top of the page. Also, we have our eye candy feature right along the bottom, good one today, and our rock and roll poll question yesterday. If there was absolutely nothing stopping you, where would you move to? Number one answer with 37%. An island somewhere in the tropics. I hear you. Number two answer was other at 19%. I'm sort of surprised by that. Europe came in at 12%. I'd stay right here at 10%. A big city like New York and LA got 8.5%. Florida 7%. Canada 4.8%. All right, U2 in concert Sunday night. Weather, it just sounds like it's going to be brutal. If I'm the director of planning and special events and public health and that sort of stuff, I would just back up the meat wagons one after another out on Clark Street behind the left field wall at Busch Stadium, because if in fact the temperature gets to 99 degrees, that means when Bono steps on stage with the band on Sunday night, I mean, temperature's going to be, 95, 96 degrees. People will be dropping like flies. So anyhow, with all that in mind, with U2 in town this weekend, what statement best sums up your feelings about concerts in St. Louis? A, we managed to find the money when it's a show we really want to see. B, we stopped going to concerts when the prices just got too expensive. Or C, we've been going to concerts for years and we feel we've pretty much seen everything already. Again, that's right there. You can answer it. We'll give you the results tomorrow here at the Daily Dose. Casey Anthony is going to live under a fake name in a secret location after she gets out of jail this weekend. She reportedly rejected the idea of getting plastic surgery to change her appearance. According to my friend Bill Zwecker at the Chicago Sun-Times, Bill, I've known Bill for 100 years, he says that Casey really does not completely understand the depth of hatred out there towards her, but something tells me she's going to pick it up pretty quickly. All right, let's get on to something much more important, and that is, who was the better third stooge, Curly or Shemp? Our buddy Joe Holloman at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. There's a lot of people at the Post-Dispatch I just can't stomach. Joe is one of those great guys who we loved having on the air. We're going to have him on this afternoon, as a matter of fact, in the 2 o'clock hour. And basically what it boils down to is this. Joe is on a mission to determine who is the best third stooge, Curly or Shemp. Now, I've said this for years. People have always said, you do all these celebrity interviews and everything. Who would you most want to interview? And I say, well, they're both dead. Because people always say the Pope. Talk to the Pope. My answers always were Johnny Carson and Curly Howard. I think Johnny Carson, obviously for reasons that should be obvious, would be a great interview. But Curly, there's just not that much on him. There wasn't that much written, and I didn't see a lot of interviews and stuff. I think he was tremendously overrated as a comedic actor. I would like to know what was going on in there, in that noggin. He had a very bizarre, peculiar life. A lot of divorces, a lot of women, a lot of drinking, a stroke. Came back after the stroke before they had really sort of sophisticated rehabilitative therapy to come back from strokes. Came back and still did Stooges films. His speech was slurred and slower, but he still did it. And what was going through his mind, how he concocted some of the stuff he did. So for my money, there's not even a contest here. But Joe and I will go around and round on this afternoon on the Big 550 KTRS. Sherwood Schwartz, the man who created both Gilligan's Island and the Brady Bunch, died yesterday in Los Angeles of natural causes. He was 94. He also wrote the theme songs to those shows. At the time of his death, this guy's 94 years old, and at the time of his death, he was working on a movie version of Gilligan's Island, and he wanted Michael Cera to portray Gilligan and Beyonce to play Ginger, the movie star. And one last little bit of trivia, you may know this already. Back in the 1960s when the show came on the air, Sherwood Schwartz originally wanted Gene Hackman to play Mike Brady, but the network suits didn't like the idea, and so Robert Reed got the gig. Jerry Seinfeld doesn't want his house in Telluride, Colorado anymore, so he's putting it up for sale for a mere $18 million. The place has a deck that's bigger than most people's houses, 5,500 square feet. That's just the deck. The house itself is 14,000 square feet, 11 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms. Perfect setup for Jerry's family of 5. House sits on 26 acres, has a heated 4-car garage. Don't all run at once. Curious Case of Curt Flood tonight on HBO. Don't miss it. Eric says 5 out of 5 minks, and I've heard wonderful things about it, and it should be required viewing for everybody who calls themselves a baseball fan. This is one of the most important stories in the history of the game. With Derek Jeter got his 3,000th career hit on Saturday. It was a home run. The fan who caught it gave it back to him, so the Yankees gave him a luxury suite for the rest of the season, memorabilia worth about $32,000. But the IRS was watching, and now the guy is on the hook for $13,000 in taxes, and the guy says he's already $200,000 in debt. Have a nice day. I've only been to a couple of state fairs in my life, and one was worse than the next. You look around and you just see missing links and knuckle-dragging people, and I don't want to belittle the idea of people who live in small towns and rural areas and are not sophisticated socially and work on farms and stuff like that. But man, it's scary sometimes when you go to these state fairs. And I was to a couple in Wisconsin and Michigan and Nebraska and Iowa and Illinois and of course the state fair in Sedalia, where you could get every sort of food there was on a stick. California State Fair starts tomorrow, and they're producing a delicacy, because they're doing fried Kool-Aid at a couple of state fairs right now. How about the maggot melt? Grilled cheese sandwich jammed with dried maggots. Deep fried. Fair will also feature deep fried scorpions and cooked raccoon meat on a stick. Have a great weekend. I have been on a couple of weird job interviews in my time, and when they start asking these questions that are supposed to be sort of tricky or thought-provoking, I just really try to have fun with them, and that usually got me nowhere. People wanted me to take those questions very seriously, and I just wouldn't. I'm there to do an entertainment show, not to have some amateur shrink peeking around trying to figure out what kind of a guy I'm going to be. If you like the show, I don't cause trouble. I just do the show. I keep my head down and try to do a great show. A few years ago, tech companies like Google and Apple seemed to have the reputation for asking the questions that were the most bizarre. Now it turns out that consulting companies are the ones surpassing the tech companies in terms of weird questions. Here's some of the questions they ask, and no, they don't give you the answers, and they didn't give me the answers here. For example, there are 2 light bulbs on in a room. Okay, there are 2 light bulbs in a room. One is always on, the other one it comes on when you open the door. How can you tell which is which? Okay, this is going to be a dumb answer. It's probably wrong, but I would feel the light bulb and see which one was hotter. If one's hot, that means it's the one all the time. If it's cooler, that means it's the one that just went on. All right? I don't know. Why do you like singing? All right? Potential answer could be, I'm not a good singer, so I don't really like singing, but that's probably not what they're looking for. How are potholes formed? Now this, I happen to know the answer to, because water gets into cracks in the pavement, because when the ground freezes, it expands, and when the water gets in there, it expands, and it sort of blows apart the infrastructure of the pavement, and then you drive over it in your car. The weight of the car makes the whole thing collapse because the infrastructure has been compromised, and you end up with a pothole. All right, do I get the job? How many barbers would be needed in a city of 1 million? How do you calculate that? I mean, some people don't get their hair cut as often. What percent are men? What percent are women? What era are we talking about? Are we talking about current day, or when people wore their hair long? And by the way, I'm stick at math, so don't ask me any more math questions. How about this one? They ask, tell me a joke. How about your company? There are 700 ways to commit a foul in Quidditch, the sport in Harry Potter, where people fly around on broomsticks. All of them occurred in the first Quidditch World Cup, and if you know the answer to that, you probably have never seen a woman's vagina. Researchers have found that there may be a link between secondhand smoke and ADHD. By the way, guys wanted a joke in the last job interview. How many ADHD kids does it take to change a light bulb? Answer, let's go ride bikes. Members of the Chicago famed Joffrey Ballet have been kicked out and locked out due to a strike and a contract dispute. First Oprah's gone, now this. What's a gay guy in Chicago supposed to do? All right, birthdays today include Cameron Crowe, the writer-director of Almost Famous, Say Anything, Jerry Maguire. He also wrote Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He was married to Nancy Wilson of Heart. They got divorced last year, and his most underrated movie of all time is a thing called Elizabethtown. It came out about, 6-7 years ago. Tremendously underrated movie. The movie is so good that it even overcomes Orlando Bloom and Kirsten Dunst, and she acts pretty ditzy in this movie. But if you have recently lost a parent and you go see this movie or rent it, I would plan something really fun afterwards. But it is a fascinating movie. The first time I saw it, I had trouble sort of deciding if it was any good. And then the subsequent times that I saw it, I thought to myself, no, this is actually a pretty darn good movie. But just be careful. If you recently lost a parent, you've really got to be careful what you do after you see this movie. Again, it's called Elizabethtown. Cameron Crowe, the guy who did Almost Famous, Say Anything, Jerry Maguire, and stuff like that. All right, JC's Eye Candy. There's a local reporter in Los Angeles, in the Los Angeles area, but it's cable. It's like one of those cable news outfits that they have. And she's reporting on a wildfire, because they got all those wildfires out there in California. And a helicopter comes over and dumps water on the fire, but gets her too. And that's bad enough, right? No, she had to make it worse with the way she reacted. Oh boy, I don't think, yeah, she's probably ready for Channel 4, let's put it that way. So again, that's JC's Eye Candy. It's right below what you're looking at right now. All right, again, with you two here this weekend, what sums up your feelings about concerts in St. Louis? A, we managed to find the money if it's a show we really want to see. B, we stopped going when the ticket prices went into the ionosphere. Or C, we've been going to concerts for years and we have pretty much seen it all. Question is right there. Please answer. We'll give you the results tomorrow. That's it. JC's Daily Dose for Wednesday, July 13th, 2011. A combined venture with Mind Active in beautiful downtown Brentwood. We're on the air every day on the Big 550 KTRS at 12 noon. We'll see you then. In the meantime, we've beaten this one to death. Have a good one. See you later. Bye.